And back at you again, family, you know, with the brother Mr. DMeezy, man, RBG DNA, you know what I'm saying, our red, black, and green that's in my genes. My Solutionology 101 with the professor himself, straight from the grassroots. We just got finished talking about, you know, number 45, as some of y'all affectionately call it. Now we go on into a more internal thing. You know, there's been a lot of controversy around you always hear about hip-hop, R&B, you know what I'm saying, those genres of black music being in question, being on the chopping board, being the subject of controversy. But lately in social media, man, in conversations, gospel music has really been, you know, especially kind of going back to Trump with one of the Mary sisters co-signing Trump. With Snoop Dogg making the Bible of Love the #1 gospel album right now. And, you know what I'm saying, you got a lot of more pastors from the traditional sector, you know, talking down on it. We also going to touch a little bit on Kanye West because at one point he career already with a lot of gospel artists. Why did he, you know, what made him stray from the path? But all is the gospel straying from the path. So we gonna get, you know, in this next hour, man, we gonna really be getting down to it. So I'm gonna just start off just personally with a question, man. What is gospel music truly of the Lord, or is it just pop with inspirational pop, basically?
Well, before I begin, first of all, let me say thank you once again for this platform, dear brother, so that we can express healing for our people. I'm Mr. DMeezy. I've dedicated my life to the liberation and salvation of the mind, body, and soul of the Afrikan, man, woman, and child. Let me also say that the Baptist Church, the Baptist Black Christianity is my foundation, but it's not my limitation. It's my foundation, but not my limitation. I operate from an African Centered perspective, an Afrikan Centered perspective, and a Pan-African orientation. And I absolutely, positively hold that is necessary, that the institutions of black people undergo a African-centered reorientation with Pan-African orientation, okay? So we need to be African-centered with a Pan-African orientation. And in this case, our institutions that are controlled by black people and for the benefit of black people need that type of reorientation. They need to be African-centered. Now, we just recently had Professor Cone pass away, who was
the Black Liberation, the father of Black Liberation Theology.
Right. He's only the father of Black Liberation Theology within the context of Christianity, right? Because we could say the modern Black Liberation Theological movement. Because if you actually pay attention to Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, then you already see the seeds of that had already been planted and watered and cultivated to a great degree before you even get to Professor Cone. Before that, of course, you had Bishop Henry McNeil Turner, who was already talking about that even though God doesn't have a color, if God were to assume a color, it would have to be the color of the first human beings that he made, all right, that God chose to make, okay? And I know God is a German word, and there's other better words we can use, but let me just use that one for the sake of convenience. Shakamusa Bear Shango said it was dog spelled backwards, so we had to be careful with that. Considering what the relationship is with white folks and dogs, and that the images of God and the angels have been white, and the demons have been dark or black, and the devil will be white, but he's swarthy. He's darker in color. He's not bright red all the time. A lot of times he have a magenta red to him, and so so it's made to appear as though darkness is equated with evil. That being said, the gospel music, has its origins with black people. And you have one version of what they call liturgical music, where you hear the Catholic Church, Episcopalians doing one version of it. And when you see the Eurocentric dominance of the Christian religion, you see those choirs. And they had the boys' choirs. And those were singing songs. Now, I don't know if people would call that gospel music. Gospel is two words put together. It is God and spell and God. And so it is the spell of God, the spell of God. And if you've ever seen any group of people, religious people, where they get caught up into the emotionality of that zeitgeist, that zeitgeist where you just swept away by what's going on around you in that environment, that's the zeitgeist. All right? That's what the spell of God is. In the old days, ministers or preachers, what we would today call preachers, in some cases they would be priests, they were called magicians because they knew the magic words. So they knew how to say things in certain ways to get the people going. All right? And I'm just sharing that with people who might not know it. So when you have gospel music, you're talking about a music that puts people in or is inspired by being up under the spell of God. So it either puts people up under the spell of God or it is inspired by people who are under that spell of God. Okay, I know that got a little bit of technical, but I'm just trying to share something with people who might not know it so that they can go check it out. I like to be believed, but I prefer to be proven. That being said, when we sing, there's a theatric component to the singing. It's an art form. So when you see people, like you said, being pop music with an inspiration, that's what it is in the professional sense. And if you've ever been to church, man, and the pianist and the organist is doing their thing and the drums is going and if they got some cymbals and some tambourines and a little shaker thing, man, it ain't nothing like it, brother. I mean, in the black community, we got better singers and musicians inside of the church than oftentimes we do when we go see our plays and go out and pay, outside of church. You get a better show at church between the singing and the preaching and the pastor. You get a better show at church with the fashion and the colors and the layouts that people got on. You get a better show at church with the testimonials and the hugging and the shaking and the shenanigans and the messing around and the children and hell, all of that, man. The choir director. Hell, man, you get a better show at church than you do when you go to the theater. So, yeah, there's a sense of what you're saying that, it's pop music with inspiration. But in the deeper sense, I haven't seen a whole lot. I have seen some. I've seen Michael Jackson. But I haven't seen a whole lot of pop music that just put people into emotional ecstasy like church music, like black gospel music does. I haven't, black gospel music, man, it take us to a special place. I mean, I don't agree with James Cleveland lifestyle, but if I put some James Cleveland on, man, I can make some people cry, man.
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I ain't going to lose my point, so go ahead.
I was just going to, man, shout out to DJ Scrap 30. He say,
oh, yeah. Scrap Dirty, man, the best. The best. Not we the best. Not we the best. He the best.
Right on, man.
He the best.
Shout out to those Scrap in the violated camp. But he made a comment, man, and, he played his house set, on Sundays, the house music set.
Right.
He always throw some gospel house music. One day we was chatting, and he said, man, there's 3 types of music that can make you cry and dance at the same time. Disco, house, and gospel. And he put gospel at number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not too coincidentally, house and disco has its origins in gospel.
Yeah, but see, when you say that, and I want you, of course, to explain it. But when you say that off the top, people say, "What the hell are you talking about?" You know, you don't know what you're talking about. It sounds so foreign to them, you know, and they ain't never heard nobody say it, and of course they ain't researched it, so you are automatically you're wrong. You know, but go ahead, break it down to them, brother.
Yo, you want me to explain it?
Oh yeah, definitely, because people need to hear it, man.
Okay. Well, I can just use one person. Now you know me, you know, just I don't rock with homosexuality at all, but I just got to name this person because he is influential in disco. But he's a self-style, I guess you can say, queen of disco. So Sylvester James, the drag.
Yeah, right, the drag queen.
He came out of the Kojic, the Pentecostal church.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ironically, that's where he was molested at too. But we don't get back into that later on. He was also buried in the Pentecostal church at Jermaine Walter Hawkins Church, in Oakland, if I'm not mistaken. He come from the church. Matter of fact, he had some backup singers, which was called the Kojic Singers.
Mhm.
And then you want to break, and you ain't even got to talk about the house because it's already known that house is just basically a mature, more, I guess you want to say, hip hop version of disco. So all that. So just using that one individual, you going back to the gospel, to the black church. Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about James Cleveland, gay church, and I don't know. I don't think at that time he called it a gay church. As a matter of fact, I'm sure he didn't. But everybody knew that that's where that was like the homosexual meeting ground and to some degree breeding ground. Breeding ground is not fair, because that would be jail. But that would be Elijah Muhammad's description of jail, a homosexual breeding ground. Right, talking about that culture that was in that space. But that church was a homosexual meeting ground, where you would have James Cleveland with all of those different choir members and directors who he had influence over. Because James Cleveland was in spite of that pathological expression of his sexuality, James Cleveland would put his name on an album, participate in one or two songs on the album, and then the rest of the album be full of you and whoever else you decided to put on it. So as a result of him lending his name to your project, and just touching up a little bit, next thing you know, you on the map. You get a chance to put yourself out there, to let your light shine as an artist, all right? And for males and females. So it wasn't a thing where you had to sleep with him in order to, no, that wasn't the necessary prerequisite. He was just like that. He was just benevolent with his stardom in that sense. And so he helped a lot of people get on. James Cleveland did. But James Cleveland had you crying. He couldn't barely even sing. I mean, you wouldn't say that he had one of the most beautiful voices. He didn't have Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin singing Amazing Grace will break you down. Even though you know what the roots of that song is, break you down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And the Clark sisters, bringing the sunshine, like you just talked about, Tremaine Hawkins. What's this dude from Mississippi Mass Choir? What's his name?
James Moore.
Is it James Moore? What's the other guy's name?
No, I know you're talking about the brother who started. Here, I can't think of his name, but it was Dr. Frank something.
Right, and they got the other woman, the woman that be singing with the Mississippi Mass Choir as well. I can't remember their names. I just know that they be rocking, man. They bring it. Man,
Those
your best
days, man. even though real talk, I gotta say, even though I'm a hip hop head now, man, but those, you know, when I was a shorty, man, when I was a baby, my mama, she was real deep in the Pentecostalism. You know what I'm saying? She had it. I guess, you know, it was, you know, trying to fight the stigma of being a single mother and, you know, staying in church. But, you know, that's another conversation for another day. But she used to take me, man. I'm talking about I couldn't walk, bro. She used to take me to Jackson State at the Athletic Assembly Center and at Mississippi College and places like that, man, to the Mississippi Mass Choir, bro. And I can remember, I still have vivid memories from an infant. People just falling down everywhere. People just crying. Man, it was you. Man, I've been to several nightclubs and I ain't seen nothing like that since.
Yeah. Man,
Mississippi, man, James Moore singing, man, listen to Lil Boosie and Free Love or at Nightlife ain't got nothing on that, bro. As far as crowd reaction.
Right. You look at the effect, and then look at where. And I like Lil Boosie as an artist. But look at where Lil Boosie's music takes you in terms of your reaction, in terms of how you interact with other people, in terms of how you deal with yourself. Look at where Lil Boosie's music take you versus where gospel music will take you. All right? Look at where it will take you. And a lot of times Lil Boosie's music it might be a step or two away from 666 Mafia. Okay? Well, you ready to tear something up. Right?
Yeah.
You ready to smoke or drink, which is doing something destructive to your own body, because oftentimes you're not going to do that in a measured way. You're going to do it in an abusive way. All right? You're going to smoke too much. You're going to drink too much, and a lot of times with the wrong company. You know, it's one thing to be sitting on your back porch or in your den or in another small gathering and have you a drink or a smoke. It's another thing to be hanging out and wilding out, drinking and smoking. Okay? Those relate two different ways to you, and you relate different ways to other people when we do that to ourselves, because it leans towards abuse. And so, you know, that being what it is, we have to really be appreciative of the gospel music tradition, even though, like you said, it has that element of being pop music with inspiration. Man, hell, man, if you set up and just listen to the gospel music, if you just said for 3 days, I'm going to listen to different gospel music stations, you're going to feel different. Even if you're not into that, you don't have to believe in that, but you're going to feel different than you would if you listen to hip-hop all day. And both of them are display dynamic artistic forms that express the black experience, you know. But you're going to feel different. You're going to see things differently. You know, I just wish the church music would address black people's real problems more, because unfortunately, a lot of times for us to participate in the black Christian religious experience, we have to leave our brains at the door. We got to shut our thought process off, and that's not healthy. That's not healthy, especially if you're an oppressed people. That's when religion becomes the opiate for the masses and a substitute, a poor substitute at that, for liberation. You start redefining liberation based on some pie in the sky stuff, as opposed to some tangible things that are right here on earth. But go ahead.
Man, that's exactly that's true facts, man. That's true facts. And man, and speaking back to the gospel music, man, as a tool of inspiration, you got to realize, man, a lot of people, man. I mean, of course, I don't subscribe to Christianity as my religion, but I must say, I know a lot of people, man, who've overcome suicide, who was about 1 minute from splitting somebody's wig, and man, the right song came on, and it changed their lives. And to the point that you were making, that's one problem I have, not just with gospel music, with the message of the church. it's always this emphasis on just empowering or motivating the individual as opposed to the community or the group. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it, even though it's coming from a different perspective, that's what a lot of people, it's coming from very different perspectives. That's what a lot of people problems with the church are. It's not speaking to the real community problem. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I know
it individualizes systemic woes. All right. So rather than address what the systemic woe is, it points to what you're supposed to do to help with the situation, as opposed to, okay, well, hell, even if I do this problem's not going to go away. Even if I do this, my family's not going to get off me. Hey, or don't worry about that. You just get you right. And of course, that's incomplete and that's insufficient. That's not enough. That's not enough. Even if the advice that they give is totally accurate and can truly, if you follow those directions, can truly help get you out of that situation, it still don't speak towards the systemic woes. I mean, they're not proposing outside of Cone and Garvey, who is Episcopalian, and Elijah Muhammad, who grew up in the Baptist tradition with father and grandfather, and then transitioned out of that into a whole bunch of different stuff before he finally got towards the Islam, and then, of course, modifies it to deal with the black experience. Before that, he was stuck in churchianity, and it was all about the individual. The church does not, it externalizes God as opposed to internalizing God. Dr. Cone speaks about that regularly, the need to internalize the divine as opposed to externalizing. And, and the black Christian church is just slow on that. They're slow on that. Matter of fact, a lot of the parishioners, if a minister came in to try to give them that, a lot of parishioners would have a lot of resistance for that, because that's not what they're familiar with. They're not familiar with that message.
Exactly.
The songs don't reflect that message either.
Oh, not at all.
The songs that you hear in church do not reflect the internalization of the divine. I'm not saying there's no artists that don't do that, and there's no songs that I'm saying, but as a whole, you don't hear that. You hear people talking about the older songs, talking about bread from heaven, feed me till I want no more. Right? That's because you have people that were starving. We're going to walk around heaven all day, and when I get to heaven, I'm going to put my brand new slippers on and my brand new robe. Yeah, that was the people that only had one or two pair of shoes. That was the people who had to go barefoot. That was the people who didn't have nice clothes for the most part. Okay, in the sense of, expensive garments. We were very creative. We could make beautiful things. But we didn't have expensive garments per se, name brand stuff. We didn't have that. So we imagined what we was going to get when we got to heaven. Okay? We're going to walk around heaven and not have to do no work. Well, most black people had to work 2 and 3 times as hard and didn't get paid as much money. So we wanted to imagine a time when we wouldn't have to work that hard. And so we put that into our songs. Okay, we talked about being free. Steal away, Lord. I haven't got time to stay here. We had codes. If you listen to Y.T. Walker, he talks about the codes in Somebody's Calling My Name. The code that was hidden inside these songs. Was it Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, coming for to carry me home? And when you hear it sung on a college campus, and it sounds so beautiful when those choirs are putting it together, that genius of black artistry and the melodic harmonization of those voices, even more harmonized than the Golden State Warriors with all them stars on their team. Right? You're talking about a sensational execution of the imagination, freedom and liberation implicit within the imagination. But, of course, not able to achieve it on earth, not able to achieve it outside of the song, not able to achieve it from the standpoint of the institution addressing the needs of the community in the way that it should or could. because, the people are still on that slave diet, slave religion, slave mentality. So, they highly resistant. They're highly resistant to a lot of what it would take to make us be collectively free, to make us be collectively Christ-like. That makes some sense, brother?
Yeah, that makes man absolutely perfect sense. And man, just a segue into the new age gospel band that's currently, taking the gospel community by storm. This monumental gospel album that the brother Snoop Dogg did, a fellow West Coaster like yourself,
right,
put out the Bible of Love. He had some of the legends of both of the legends of, contemporary gospel, traditional gospel. He had that joint loaded. But of course,
right,
like with all things, it don't come, nothing comes without criticism. You know what I'm saying? You have a lot of people in the, on the secular side, you like, man, dog, when you know what I'm saying, Nation of Islam, then you with the Sunni Islam, then you with the Rastafari, now you Christian. And then of course on the gospel side, you like, come on. People seeing that as a furthering secularization and the watered down of what the church of the hard line that the church is supposed to have and really saving people. People come in as they are and clean them up and fixing them, not people coming in as they are and just staying as they are. So, just be true to that.
Okay, well, that's that. I want to touch on that last point. It is about coming as you are. And as black people, we were put in such horrible conditions that we had to accept a lot of stuff based on us being put in horrible conditions. I mean, we can't crash down on whoredom in the way that we might want to, because a lot of our mothers found it more sensible to resort to that in order to be able to pay bills and feed children. Okay? And, of course, if you have your man taken from you, you don't have enough men to go around, then you're always going to have some women that, need a man but can't have a real whole man to themselves, so they end up sharing a man. I mean, these are just social realities. And so we accepted a lot more stuff as a result of that, and you see it inside of our institutions, especially inside the church, because that was our first institution. It's our strongest institution in our community, one of the very few institutions we actually control in America. I'm talking about in terms of the finances, in terms of choosing the leadership, maintaining and sustaining the leadership, or having hierarchical structures. We have that in church. Church has its own politics within the church. That's not even including with whether or not you're going to vote for president or anything. So, or governor. And so, we have titles in church that black people too. And this is the same thing, because you have to consider that institutional format and the reality of it. Now, when we look at Snoop Dogg, we ought to be grateful that you got somebody that's in the mainstream a mainstream artist who still operates to the beat of his own drum to a great degree. Even when you listen to him rap, he's one of the only people with that, what they call a Calibama style of rap. And he's when you hear him, you know that it's him. He got his own sound, and he can ride a beat like very few others. When he rides the beat, he don't ride it like the person that came before him, and the person that came after him usually can't keep up the same way. That's just on the artistic side. His flow is superior to most other people, and it's distinguishable. You know that it's Snoop. And he's been around a long time, and his music is still dope. Now, as you know, Snoop represents a lifestyle that ain't exactly one that should be condoned by, spiritually minded people. Snoop Dogg talking about pimping and hoeing and being a player and smoking just nauseous amounts of weed, drinking and driving and smacking folks up and shooting them. Okay, he got all these tales about the street life. But Snoop, at this stage in his development, is like, okay, I'm going to go over here and deal with my brothers from the Caribbean. I'm going to go over here and deal with my brothers that's on the outskirts of the black church, which is the Nation of Islam. I'm going to go over here and deal with this community, and the gospel community. I'm over here dealing. So he's dealing with multiple facets of the black community. He ought to be credited with that. And when he goes to the other places, he still be who he is. Whether you like that or whether you are against that, whether you're for it or against who he is, you can at least say he's consistent. Okay, he got the youth football league, and now he's still on that player stuff. He's still smoking weed. He's still promoting some values that we ain't for, but he's at the same time he also promotes some values we should be for, which is for fatherhood and mentoring, right? All right. I mean, give this devil his due. Okay. And he was hooked up with Donald Trump. He was hooked up with Donald Trump before the election. If you don't believe me, go watch the roast. Go watch the roast of Donald Trump that they did on Comedy Central. You see Snoop right there with him. They're very familiar. Okay, Snoop didn't start saying nothing bad about Trump until he just started going too far with the football players and the thing that happened in South Carolina. Okay, nonetheless, Snoop come out with the gospel album because he said because his grandmother, if I'm correct, his mother's an ordained minister. His mother is an evangelist. I know it because I sat on an airplane with his mother. Didn't even know who she was when I first saw her. She introduced herself, showed me some pictures of him when he was a child. All right? She carried him just like any other mother would in her purse. She wasn't carrying him because he was Snoop Dogg. She was carrying him because that was her child. Okay? She wasn't trying to get no extra props from me because she was Snoop Dogg's mama. She just told me as a matter of course, as a matter of fact. Okay? Par for the course. Just because she was a proud mother. Not that I hold her any deference. She's an evangelist. She didn't just start being an evangelist because of Snoop Dogg. That's what she's into. And the grandmama was into that. And Snoop Dogg wanted to honor a request from his, if I'm correct, it was his grandma. And he put together a hell of an album. A hell of an album. He got, I'm looking at it now, Chris Bolton, Uncle Chuck with 2 C's, because he don't want to put CK, because then that's Crip Killer. So he got Uncle Chuck, the Zion Messengers, and KC. He's got John P. Key on here, somebody October London, the Zion Messengers, the Burrell Family, Old School, Faith Evans, Kim Burrell. That's the one that's out now on the radio, Sunshine Feel Good. Sly Piper, the Clark Sisters, Pure Gold, B. Slade, Molly Music, another one, B. Slade, Ty Tribbett, Charlie Wilson, the person that he helped put back on the map after Charlie Wilson was just coming out of rehab.
True that.
Lonnie Burrell, Marvin Sapp. You got 2 discs. Isaac Caree, Jazzy Faye, Superfly, Rance Allen. Rance Allen, believe it or not, is on the Watch Stacks video singing, You Lied on the Truth, talking about the manipulation of Christianity, with white supremacy. Rance Allen, back then, singing You Lied on the Truth, because he came up during the Black Power era. He was an artist during the Black Power era.
Hey, just to interject right quick, man, I noticed all the names you called, and this kind of, I guess, just giving probably props to do it kind of points to the genius of Snoop Dogg, because those names, they span different breadths of the gospel community, and also You got people on there who are highly esteemed in the gospel community, and you got a couple people on there who fell from grace in the gospel community, like B. Slade and Kimberell. B. Slade because he's an open homosexual, and Kimberell, of course, made those comments against homosexuals being in the church. Then Isaac Curry had a little scandal with his wife, so it's almost like a sinner's prayer type thing. But he still got people on there with impeccable reputation. So it's kind of a genius venture. You know what I'm saying? Just to be 100 with you.
Yeah. Well, Snoop has been like that most of his career. Doggy Style, The Dog Father, No Limit, Top Dog, The Last Meal, right? The Blue Carpet Treatment. You know, Snoop been on it for a minute, man. He's about it. Rhythm and Gangster. Snoop is about it. Now he come out with the Bible of Love. All right? I mean, Snoop is on it, man. And the album is a top seller. So when he turns these other people on, like James Cleveland do, he put his name on the project. He turned these people that normally wouldn't pay no attention to gospel. He turned them on to these artists. So when these people need a pick-me-up, they don't have to go shoot themselves. They don't have to go get high beyond recognition. They can tap into some of this inspiration and feel better about themselves and treat other people better as a result of that. They can get turned on to these artists and start including them on other projects that turn more people on to the inspiration based on that level of artistry, that genre of artistry. I mean, and it creates more healthy relationships amongst entertainers so that they don't see each other as you over here and I'm over there, and therefore we don't have no business dealing with each other. As you know, man, we got a lot of times the same hypocrisies, the same madness and foolishness going on in the church as you do out of the church. The primary difference is, of course, when you go to church more, you got something to help you check yourself. You could kind of pull your own coat to some degree and say, hold on, I went too far. And you could go and patch it up to a greater degree than somebody who might not have that social environment. You might be just as wicked and just as warped as the jokers outside the street in the black church, but nonetheless, that church gives you a social network where you can lean on people and people can lean on you, and you can see other people's problems and you realize that you're not alone and that your problem is not as bad perhaps as you thought once you put it in the proper context, all right? Because other people might have it worse. And so, you know, the church got a lot of advantages, and people who go to church have an advantage in that sense, whether they go in the mosque, temple, or synagogue. But in this case, we're talking about specifically the black church as a whole, even though that represents a lot of different things today than just one thing. But I think people get an idea what I'm saying. Whether they got 15 people at their church, 50 people at the church, or 150 people at the church, or 350 people at the church, or maybe 500 or 1,000 people at the church. It's something about coming together on one accord, tapping into your God consciousness, and that, you know, that have an effect on you that help you be a better person.
Indeed. And shout out to the brother Simple. He made a good point about it, about some of the backlash that Snoop Dogg was catching. And he said, man, you know, and he quoted, you know, I know you well versed with the scripture, but he came with a scripture about, you know, even, you know, sinners can give praise or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he was like, y'all have a problem with people like Snoop Dogg, but what about the years of homosexual predators and fornicating women who was making these best-selling albums and performances? You know, they was cool, but when Snoop Dogg does it, it's a problem. Now the church is in arms, or certain factors of the church.
Well, you know, but there's a long history of that, even when you deal with what they call the father of modern gospel music, he was criticized based on that. Because he was in the world. He mixed the blues he was doing blues and he was doing gospel at the same time. All right? So they were jumping on him for that back then. Okay? Today we got people play jazz music inside the church. Well, jazz music is truly what they called ass music. Okay? It's not jazz, it was ass that somebody put a J in front of. Because jazz music was music that they played in the brothel. So that just like you go to a strip club and they put the music on and you get a dance for as long as the song is going, well, they played the song to let the Janes know how long to be with the Johns.
Yep.
All right? So that was the music that we today call jazz music. And there were different types of jazz, including the ragtime jazz, and then there was a slower version that they played. All right? And I'm just touching on some things in terms of the history of our musical traditions. They call that the original American music, which is jazz music. All right? And you had one group of people playing it down in New Orleans, and you had another group of people playing it on the East Coast. The people on the East Coast could actually read the music, and the people in the South couldn't always read it, but they could sure as hell play it.
Right.
When you get them two people mixing together is when you get the true jazz music. Okay? When you get the true jazz music in terms of being able to put it on wax and replicate it and so forth and so on. I'm saying at one time they didn't want that music played in the church. Thomas Dorsey comes along, he got a touch of all that. He got some jazz in him, he got some blues, and as you know, the blues and the rhythm, that's the origin of the rock and roll, what becomes rock and roll. So he had all that flavor. And the black people was like, you need to choose which God you're going to serve. You can't serve God and the devil. And eventually Thomas Dorsey came on in and just made the gospel music. Okay? When we fast forward up to Kirk Franklin, when Kirk Franklin first came in with the hip-hop version of gospel music, the hip-hop touch on the gospel music, and he's a hell of a performer, I would say, outside of Prince. And it's this flute player that plays for Erykah Badu. I ain't never seen nobody more lively in concert than Kirk Franklin. That joker puts on a live concert. I'm talking about he is live. He is so energetic and charismatic on stage with his dancing and his directing and all that stuff he's doing. He puts on a hell of a show. He puts on a hell of a show, a next level show. All right? That's what he does.
A lot of people, man, don't really value the genius of Kirk Franklin. They think, man, some people incorrectly see Kirk Franklin as the gospel equivalent of DJ Khaled. Like, he just brings people together.
No.
Nah, he a conductor, man, a composer, producer. You know what I'm saying? He like Pharrell and he like Pharrell and Got Dog and Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying, mix or something like that.
Yeah, he is. I mean, the only thing he doesn't do well is sing. He doesn't sing well. But he can do a little bit of instrument. He do a whole lot of directing. He got his own label. So that means he got some knowledge with the business end. Okay, which a lot of musicians don't have. Joker crossing racial boundaries by mixing up those choirs. He went from choirs to choruses, putting the people who can show enough sing. I mean, the Joker is incredible. But I'm saying my whole point in bringing his name up was at that time, people was against what he was doing because the church is typically slow to catch on to the trend. They slow to catch on, so they gave him a lot of hell. Gospel music is what they call a genre of Christian music. And so when you heard me talking earlier about those choirs, we're talking about the Western version of Christianity, not John G. Jackson's Christ before Christianity. All right? We're not talking about Gerald Massey about historical Jesus and the mythical Christ. We're not talking about Kersey Gray's 16 crucified saviors. We're not talking about Albert Boyd Kunt. We ain't talking about his work on who is this King of Glory. Okay, I just want to be clear what we're talking about. We're talking about the Christian church, the black Christian church especially. But the gospel music is the genre of the Christian music. All right? And so it's rooted in the black oral tradition. It's rooted in our hymns, our sacred songs, our moanings, and our groans, what we would today call the spirituals. It's rooted in that. And it comes from our hurt and our pain. But so does the blues, by the way. Right. So does the blues.
Hey, but check this out. Since I know we about to close out on this topic soon, I want to kind of go back to what you want to call, I guess you could call the conservative sector of Christianity, of the black church, and which has later been, and the brother hasn't been in the field for way longer than what he's known, but of course he made a lot of comments that, caused a lot of hoopla. The brother Pastor Gino Jennings out of Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, I like. I don't always agree with everything he said because, of course, he purposely locks himself into a biblical paradigm.
Right.
And he does that on purpose. I mean that's how he covers. It's his rock, his sword, and his shield. Okay.
Right. And he ain't too.
Go ahead. He ain't too what?
I was gonna say he ain't. He say a lot. He say stuff that speaks to black people, but he'll let you know out top that he's Christian first.
Right.
He's Christian
right.
first.
He's not race first.
He ain't messing with black liberation theology. He all about the old time religion. You feel me? And even speaking back to what we're talking about with gospel music, that's why he's highly critical of the Pentecostal church. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
He comes. If I'm correct, doesn't he come out of the apostolic church?
Yeah. He comes out there.
That's his root. His foundation is the apostolic. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. You right on the money.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's been critical of the Kojic. He had several debates with them about the proliferation of all the singing and all that, getting away from the truth and just being about performances and having praise dances, and they really being about the truth, and what he calls the truth. And of course, with the lasciviousness of the women, in the church and how would they perform and how they come, and I want you to speak on that. Do you think? I know you say you like him, you know what I'm saying, but do you think the brother is reactionary? Is people like him holding the black church from helping the community, or do we need more brothers like him just with a sense of black liberation theology?
Well, I think you need multiple types. I appreciate the wisdom as well as the genius of a lot of black ministers of multiple types. I personally believe that the black church, I wish that Ashaka Musa Barashango and Jeremiah Wright were considered the norm, in my opinion. If they were the middle, if Ashaka Musa Barashango and Jeremiah Wright were considered the norm, and the overwhelming majority of black ministers expressed themselves in a manner similar to Barashango and Jeremiah Wright, I think we'd be a lot better off. And that covers a wide range. And they can still retain their own style, their own stylistics. I also hold that and have held for some time that if the black church as a whole, from a denominational standpoint, where you have AME Zion, CME, the Apostolic, Four Square, and Four Corner Gospel, and of course you have the Baptist traditions, if those different denominational structures, Progressive Baptists, those different denominational structures even with their pre-existing hierarchies, if they taught what Elijah Muhammad taught, but from a Christian perspective, we'd be a lot better off as a people. Okay? Because black liberation theology would be wrapped up in that. So when we talk about a Gino Jennings, obviously I have issues with him not being race first. But I agree with him way more often than I disagree with him. I'm not typically satisfied that he limits himself purposely, strategically, to a biblical framework.
He's like a non-racial Hebrew Israelite.
Yeah, to some degree. What it is he's not race first, but in his, and I wouldn't doubt, it's like you should be able to see what color I am, and so you know what time it is on that. And then he has videos where he talks against the white Jesus pictures. He speaks against that, but his thing is holiness. It should be about holiness. And they sing their songs, they rock back and forth. And he has multiple churches, and they study that Bible. I mean, they really study that Bible. And he encourages his parishioners to live by that. And he's consistent. So whatever we got to say about a whole bunch of other stuff, we can't deny he's consistent. All right? He is consistent. And he's not afraid of the debate. But, he's going to make sure that debate, occurs within a certain structure and confine, too.
Yeah.
But I like him because he's right. When he talks about these women, he's talking about them from a biblical perspective, but he's also making a sociological observation, which is that the looseness and the lasciviousness of street life is being accepted as a norm inside the church. I mean, while we could disagree with some of his tone, and we could disagree with some of the more hyperbolic statements that he makes, but when you start talking about women coming to church with the skin-tight stuff on, that can't help but to be a distraction. I mean, human.
Hey, be careful. You crossing things with waters now because, because what a lot of women will say, that's the, like a sister try to get at Gino Jennings about it. They like, man, that's the man's problem. They try to bring up their toxic masculinity.
No, hold on. That's like getting mad at fire for being hot. That's like being mad at water for flowing downhill and for being wet. You got to deal with what the nature of things are. Okay, and so what these women are saying, and it's some old feminist crap, which is white women, like I told you, any black woman or black women who calls herself a feminist is a confused person. That's a confused person. Because no one who worships their oppressor is mentally sane, and no one who's mentally sane worships their oppressor. All right? If you don't understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything you know or think you know, understand, or believe you understand will only confuse you. We can't get around that. And so that's some more feminist crap, that you need to make sure your dick don't get hard. You need to make sure you don't catch yourself salivating at me. You need to just turn off your sexual self as though that's not a part of yourself when you deal with me. Well, that's just not realistic. That hasn't been realistic at no point in history. Okay? That's not even true for some gay men. You got gay men who practice gay lifestyles, who are still attracted to women, because that's in the nature of things. That's built into the nature. And that's not even built into the nature of human beings. That's built into the nature of the entire spectrum of the universe, where you have opposites that are complementary opposites which are attracted to one another. And so that's not even limited to the human species. So, when women say that, that's a pile of crap. And they know it. Do we need to control ourselves? Of course we need to control ourselves. But should you put me in a situation where I have to keep saying no to what I like? That's probably not the wisest thing to do. That's like putting a fat child around chocolate cake. That's just not something you should do. You should know better than that.
Right, and that's what the brother Jennings pointed to, man. Like, like he said, if he see a nurse dressed as a cop, and I know, and that came from infamous Dave Chappelle line. If you see a nurse dressed like a cop, you feel me? You don't go to it as a cop, like, hey, 911, not first aid. You feel me?
Right.
And of course, they try to type it in with this other construct that they try to hit them with their rape coach thing. Oh, you saying that because I wear high heels stilettos, I deserve to get raped? And even brother, like, what did I say that?
Right. I mean, a lot of that's just straight up foolishness, and the people saying it know it's foolishness, but they're attempting to justify something that's really based on an outcome or a derivative of oppression. Okay, because a lot of our women were put in a position of having to whore, because that's what the white man put white women in a position to have to do. All right? And so he ain't going to treat the other woman better than he treat his own woman.
True.
Okay, a lot of our women were concubines for the white man because he had the power. Okay, and once again, when we say the white man, we're talking about the system of global white supremacy. All right? When you see a Donald Trump, look at what a Donald Trump will do to a black woman. Look at what he do to white women. Okay, do you think that the black women that he's messing with get paid as much as the white women he mess with?
No, not at all.
No, I'm just asking what you think, not whether or not he messed with black women or not, but what would you think? Do you think Black Lives Matter? Do Black Lives Matter as much? Okay,
not at all.
All right, not even on the block, not even on the host roll. Okay, you got white women that you can drop right in the community right now, and black men will pay more for that white woman who's a sick and diseased dog that white folks don't want in their community no more. Put that same sick, diseased dog in the black community, and black men will pay more for that white woman than they would for the black woman. And both of them out there doing the same thing.
Man, you know what? And I know this is a sad way, man, but like you say, man, when you delve in this solution to black people problem, one conversation is just God dog, there's an elbow to lead to another one. I was watching an old, it was years ago. I was watching a segment of an episode, an interview of DJ Black, and he was interviewing the sister who's in porn named Naomi Banks, who coincidentally came from a black Christian family. Got into the world, which Jennings, he does speak to that aspect, and she got involved in the porn. She moved out to California from Chicago and got into the porn, which I like to call pornographic industrial complex. But anyway, to make a long story short, she was talking, and it was kind of asinine for her to complain about it. But I ain't gonna attack religion. She was complaining that because she was sleeping with mostly white men, and doing porn with mostly white men, that them doggone Peckerwoods were still paying more to see black women screw white men. Black women screw black men more to see other white boys screw black women. And she was trying to, and she was calling racism on it. And in spite of that mental side that she was displaying, it did point to something. So yeah, even though you was willing to get down and dirty and let them white boys run a train on you, they still didn't find you worthy enough to pay you accurately what you thought you should have been paid for subjugating yourself to depravity.
Yeah, that's deep mental illness, but that's a result of oppression. So before you blame the victim of the oppression, you have to look at the fact that the person is in a state of oppression that comes from a culture of oppression and has been acculturated to oppression. All right? So let's not blame Skinner's rat and Skinner's pigeons for being what they are. Let's look at Skinner. Let's not blame the monster that was in the book Frankenstein. Let's look at Frankenstein, okay, the doctor who created the monster. And if we don't do that, then we get ourselves caught up in foolishness. And so we have to look at, we have to place the blame where it should be. When most of us don't study white supremacy, and these gospel songs don't deal with white supremacy. Okay, you have to go to certain types of rock and roll to deal with, for black people to deal with white supremacy, certain types of poetry, even Dolomite's poetry to deal, certain types of comedy to deal with white supremacy. But a lot of times the gospel music just avoids that altogether. And to a great degree, Gino Jennings is probably one of the more outspoken ministers, but it's certain stuff he don't really focus on. At least I haven't heard him focus on. And of course, I haven't watched a lot of his stuff. When I do watch it, I'm impressed by the fact that he's researched what he's talking about. So whether you agree or disagree with his conclusions, or with his tone, or his methodology, you can't deny the fact that he did go study. Right? Yeah. He is competent in his craft. So don't let one thing distract you and take you away from the other one. Don't do that.
Hey, the brother must, hey, he kill me, man, when he sometimes when he really be in that spirit, man, he be going in, that joker will say, am I right? Am I right?
Well, wait, I see one video. I see one video where he got another brother over there talking about hallelujah, 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 and the dude is going into a semi-trance. But he was going into a semi-trance, but he could still read on point. So is that him faking? Or is he really catching the spirit? Is he in control of the spirit in control of him? Yeah, which one is going on? I don't know, right? Is he putting on the show, or is he really wrapped up in what's going on? I don't know. Okay? I don't know. All right? I don't know. But I'm grateful that he's got those people improving their lives. Because if you're talking about being dedicated to holiness, you're talking about living longer. You're talking about having longer and stronger relationships with the people who love you and who you love. Okay? So there's something to be said for that, even if we have points of variance with this part or that part. There's something to be said for that. Hell, I like T.D. Jakes. I love listening to T.D. Jakes. T.D. Jakes is telegenic in the sense of not how he look, but in the sense that when he tells a story, he can make you see the story in your own head. And that's a very rare quality. And as a minister, he's able to do it. If you see him on a panel, you have to listen to him real close. But a lot of times he displays a lot of wisdom when he speaks, when T.D. Jakes, when he speaks. Now, of course, I'm raised first and all that, so therefore there's some other points of variance I'm going to have with T.D. Jakes. But for the lane that he's in, he does a damn good job for the lane that he's in. I wouldn't expect Gino Jennings to be in the T.D. Jakes lane, because white folks not going to be cotton up to Gino Jennings the same way they're going to cotton up to T.D. Jakes.
Oh no, because he coming in because Jennings already, because he's into several shots at T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar and guys like that. Man, he come in, he clean it up. He already say he run.
But see, but the way he do it, make him sound like a hater. Okay, the way he goes about doing it, make him, whether he is or is not, is secondary to me. But he comes across as a hater when he does that.
Hey,
okay?
Would you compare Gino Jennings to what he is? Would you compare him to like a irritated genie type personality? Just coming in.
Honestly, I would, but I consider irritated genie to be more destructive. And let me say it correctly, unnecessarily destructive. I would say irritated genie unnecessary, but I love irritated genie that he does his research too. In that sense, both of them, and the fact that they rub like sandpaper, they're similar in that way. But they have a lot of values in common in terms of family and community and whatnot. But, of course, Irritated Genie is raised first. So I love that about him.
True.
You know, I love that about him. I don't love how he, and I've told you this before privately, but I don't love how he goes after and attacks certain heroes and sheroes, and a lot of times he presents his accurate information outside of the context of our oppressor and our oppression. Okay, so he'll deliver certain information outside that context as he's vilifying their behavior. He doesn't just vilify their behavior; he vilifies them, and I consider that to be counterproductive in the larger scheme of things. But that don't take away from the fact that he's a hell of a researcher, and the stuff that he presents is presented with the intention of helping to heal and uplift the black community. You know, we can't get away from that.
Fair enough.
I really wish. See, if you put Irritated Genie and Gino Jennings together, there will be people around them that will be looking for a reason to get them to disagree with each other than to present something that showed the many things that they do agree on. You see, rather than benefit from the power that both of them have, somebody will be involved in and around their circles trying to get them to argue, fuss, debate, or fight in public to show some level of dissension between them, when I wouldn't doubt that if there was 100 things on the table, they would agree with 85 of them.
Man, that's powerful. Hey, but I know we got to close this thing out soon, but and I know we missed Kanye West on this one.
Oh, man.
But guess what? So the next one we about to bring up, he gonna fit perfectly into that.
Okay.
He gonna fit.
We'll table Kanye West, Kanyeezy, and his crazy show. We'll table him, but that's another genius in his own right, musical genius, not academic genius, musical genius, right? Not engineering genius, musical genius, not architectural genius, musical genius, right? Not medical genius, musical genius. All right.
Well, that's one thing about you guys. You know, several things. As long as I've been knowing you, and I'm gonna be honest, you know, and it's only fair. I agree with 95% of what you say. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be honest. 5% is because you might say something about a person I look up to, and I might not totally agree. But guess what? Your every assessment you make is fair. And it ain't just feelings. It's pragmatic and practical, and that's why your voice is definitely needed, man. Because the last 2 segments, man, has been great. And one thing I know is you spoke from personal experience and what you dealt with, what you seen, but it wasn't emotionless. But at the same time, it wasn't just monotone facts.
Yeah, well, you know, we have to.
That's some mastery right there. Real talk.
Yeah, that is, and I strive for self-mastery. And if you practice myotic spirituality, then, you know, regardless of what your religious perspective is, if you practice myotic spirituality, it's going to help make you a better person. And self-mastery is one of the things we all want to achieve. We should be seeking to achieve. But I will say that it's a blessing to be able to be here. Thank you for opening up this space, and let me just close with it is difficult, near impossible. There is no valid substitute for reading, research, and study. It is difficult, near impossible to properly love oneself without the holistically accurate knowledge of self. We must conquer our fear of freedom. Knowledge of self is the key to salvation. One life, one love, one enemy, one God, one aim, one destiny. Motto Tep. May we continue to be a blessing, prove worthy of abundant prosperity, and be a blessing to others.
All right. See y'all next time, brothers and sisters. We'll be right back at you.
Motto Tep.
Motto Tep.